it is the decision day for the city that never sleeps, New York. The voting has now concluded in one of the most politically charged local contests this year, and the election is now being closely watched across the world as it marks the first major vote since President Donald Trump's return to the White House. Now, the three-way race pits a Democratic candidate Zohran Mamdani against a former governor Andrew Cuomo, now running as an independent, and Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa. In fact, Trump has thrown his weight behind Cuomo, urging Republicans to vote strategically, saying, whether you like Andrew Cuomo or not, you really do not have a choice. You must vote for him. Now, the president has repeatedly targeted Mamdani, calling him a communist, and also warning that in this election, New York's survival is at stake if he wins. Now, for Mamdani, this election is about delivering change. The 34-year-old state legislator from Queens and self-described democratic socialist has now built a campaign around tackling inequality, expanding housing, as well as taxing the wealthy. He's been endorsed by progressive icons like Senator Bernie Sanders, Congresswoman AOC, giving his campaign national attention as well as grassroots momentum. Now, the stalwarts of the Democrats, including former U.S. President Barack Obama, has also backed Mamdani in this election. Now, the other candidate, Andrew Cuomo, once a dominant figure in New York politics, is now staging a political comeback after resigning as governor in 2021 amid sexual harassment allegations, which he has denied. Further running as a candidate, Cuomo is now positioning himself as the centrist alternative, warning that Mamdani's policies could drive away businesses and worsen New York's fiscal situation. Remember, it is also the financial hub of the U.S. Now, he's telling voters that he represents stability and experience in contrast to Mamdani's untested socialism. Meanwhile, the third candidate, Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate and a well-known radio host and a founder of Guardian Angels, is pitching a law and order campaign this time. Sliwa has vowed to expand the police presence, crack down on homelessness, as well as lower taxes in the city. However, the latest exit polls we're getting in, they suggest that Mamdani is the one who's leading in these polls. In fact, according to the final polls just before voting began, Mamdani was leading with around 44% support. Cuomo was at 38%, while Sliwa at the bottom at 11%. But right now, all eyes are on Mamdani, who could become the city's first Muslim and South Asian mayor. In fact, election officials say that polling across the city has been brisk, despite a bomb scare earlier this morning in neighboring New Jersey, where multiple polling places received email threats. Officials have confirmed that the affected sites have been secured and voting has, in fact, concluded in those areas as well. So clearly, the stage is now set, and in a short while from now, we will get to know who becomes the mayor of New York City. Now, viewers, this very contest in New York City has also seen the American president sticking his neck out in this one. Zohran Mamdani, in fact, as he emerged as a front-runner, Donald Trump took to Truth Social to say and warn the voters of New York City that survival is at stake here should Democratic candidate Zohran Mamdani win this election. He also said that if communist candidate Zohran Mamdani wins the election, it is highly unlikely that I will be contributing federal funds to my beloved first home. He further said that this once great city has zero chance of success or even survival. It can only get worse with a communist at the helm. He also added that it is my strong conviction that New York City will be a complete and total economic and social disaster should Mamdani win. Also adding that his principles have been tested for over 1,000 years now, and never once have they been successful. Now, Mamdani has also responded to Donald Trump's threat with calmness, saying that what Trump says is not a law and that it was time to stand up to bullies. So clearly, with the comfortable lead in the polls, Zohran Mamdani seems to be now on the brink of creating history as the youngest mayor in over a century and also the first Muslim and South Asian leader to lead the city. All right, joining me on this broadcast to discuss this high-stakes election is Ambassador Meera Shankar, who's also been former Indian ambassador to the US. Thank you, Ambassador, for joining us early in the morning on News 9. Now, Ambassador, as per the latest exit polls we're getting in, Zohran Mamdani could become New York's first Muslim mayor. So how do you read this? An immigrant, a South Asian man, set to lead the US's biggest city. What's your reading?
Well, I think it reflects the concerns of New Yorkers about the rising crisis of affordability. You know, that everything in New York, from rents to transport to food, is becoming too expensive. And this was at the center of Mamdani's campaign. He was a kind of surprise at the Democratic primaries, where he defeated veteran politician Andrew Cuomo. And he's consolidated his campaign through 90,000 volunteers who've done grassroots campaigning in the boroughs. His message of free buses, freezing rents, and free childcare, and making groceries more affordable by running city-run groceries, which would act as a check on prices and help to stabilize them, has found resonance with ordinary workers. And of course, he's also been controversial because the message that he's carrying is somewhat radical for the United States. But it's one which has helped the Democrats, or may help, take back the working class, which has shifted rightwards towards the Republicans. And you see this in Virginia. There are two other gubernatorial races. In Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, the Democratic candidate, a woman, has defeated Lieutenant Governor Earl Sears, the Republican candidate. And in the New Jersey gubernatorial race, Democratic candidate Mickey Sherrill, again a woman, has defeated Republican candidate Jack Ciattarelli. Now, they haven't had such a radical message as Mamdani, but they have also focused on bread and butter issues and affordability, as well as on the rising feelings against President Trump, particularly in Virginia, where there are a lot of federal workers who have been laid off or right now are not getting paid because of the government shutdown. So if actually Mamdani wins New York, it would consolidate a sweep for the Democrats in the eastern states.
Ma'am, I want to ask you on that point that, if Mamdani wins, as you mentioned, and all the exit polls are showing that, how much of this would be an anti-Trump vote than a pro-Mamdani? Because, New York City has been voting blue for a long time now, and they wanted somebody who could keep Donald Trump at a distance from the city. So do you think this would be a more anti-Trump vote than a pro-Mamdani one?
I think Mamdani's message is what has resonated because, anti-Trump could have been Cuomo as well. But Mamdani's message has resonated. It's also created fissures within the Democratic Party because he's been backed by the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, Bernie Sanders, Ocasio-Cortez, and this wing of the party has backed Mamdani. And there
minority
is this
within the
feeling
Democrats.
Yes. The mainstream Democrats still try to be somewhat centrist. And I think that if Mamdani wins, it could push the party to adopt a more worker-friendly or a more left of center position.
All right, Ambassador. Also, you were talking about the promises he's made in this election, increasing taxes on the rich, freezing stabilized rental rates, increasing public subsidized housing, free universal childcare. I want to ask you, how realistic are these goals going to be when it comes to implementation in a city with Wall Street at its heart?
It's going to be difficult. He's going to face problems, and President Trump has already said that he's not going to provide funds.
Exactly.
And New York had a budget deficit for many, many years. So it is going to be an issue. But Mamdani says he has ways of funding. So let's give him a chance and see how he is going to do it. But on the other hand, there will be efforts to make his governance more complicated, both in terms of squeezing funding, and we don't know because President Trump has sent in the National Guards into other democratic ruled cities or provinces. So we don't know if there's going to be a face-off on law and order, though violent crime or serious crime in New York has been coming down since 2023 when it was at a peak, though other crime is still quite high. No, petty crime.
Ambassador Meera Shankar, thank you for joining us and giving us your inputs on these high-stake elections taking place in New York. And in fact, in a short while from now, we'll get to know who leads the city this time.